Hey everybody, and welcome back to another deep dive with us. So today we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Yeah. Basically, we're going to be going over the top 21 most frequently used words in the English language.
Yeah, and it's really amazing how such a small set of words can make up like the foundation for like daily conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, whether you're a beginner or, you consider yourself more advanced, understanding these words and how to use them effectively, is really going to help you sound more fluent, more natural. So joining me today to, help us unpack all of this and really give us some good insights is...
Hi, everyone.
So I'm really excited to jump into this with you. So I guess to start off, our source has broken down these 21 words into different categories.
Right.
So we've got verbs and we've got conversational words and we've got nouns and adjectives. So I figure, why don't we just go in order? Verbs, those are like the action words, right? The workhorses of the sentence. So let's start there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So the first one on the list is go. And, I think most people, when they think about go, they're thinking, it's about like physical movement.
Right. Like I go to the store.
Right. Exactly.
But, it can also indicate like a change of state. Like the lights went out or even like a progression of time, like as the years go by.
That's so true. I never really thought about like all the different ways that we use that one little word go. All right. What about get? That one seems even more, multifaceted.
Yeah, get is a very interesting one, because it often implies a process or a change of state that's sort of outside of your direct control.
Oh, okay.
So you think about phrases like get sick or get lost. It's like something is happening to you. It's not like you're directly making it happen.
Right. It's like something's being done to you.
Exactly.
But then on the other hand, you have phrases like get rich or get ahead.
Right.
And those have a very different connotation.
Yeah.
Right. It's much more like intentional, almost aspirational.
Yeah, it's like get reflects our relationship with change itself, whether it's something we're actively pursuing or something that's kind of being imposed upon us.
That's so interesting. I like that a lot. Okay, so moving right along. Next up, we have do. And this one always feels to me like the ultimate multitasker.
Definitely.
You can do so many things.
Absolutely. It's amazing how often do just pops up in our sentences. From describing our jobs, like, what do you do?
Right.
To expressing obligations, I have to do my homework. It really is like the Swiss Army knife of verbs.
Yeah, and it plays such a key role in questions too. Do you like pizza? Did you see that movie? Like it's just, it makes the question a question.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've had go, we've had get, we've had do. What about have?
Oh, have. That's another one that's surprisingly versatile.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we use it for possession. I have a car.
Right.
But we also use it for experiences. I had a great time. And then, all those idioms too. Have a nice day. Have a good one. These are just ingrained into our everyday conversations.
Yeah, and I think have really highlights how so much of language is really about more than just, the literal meaning. It's about, creating a feeling or, connecting with someone on a social level.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's tackle make. I feel like this is one I use constantly. Make dinner, make a decision, make a mistake. It's all about like creating something or causing something to happen.
Yes.
But then there's also this element of obligation sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like I made him apologize.
Exactly. Make implies that you're kind of bringing something into being. You're causing something to happen. And you're right about the obligation aspect too. It can be used to express, influence or even a sense of like responsibility for something.
Well, like you're the driving force behind whatever is happening.
Exactly.
Okay. And last but not least on our list of verbs, we have take.
Take. Now, this is an interesting one because take often involves a sense of action combined with possession or control. So, think about phrases like take a break, take a seat, take charge.
Right. It's like you're asserting yourself in some way, whether you're taking something for yourself or taking control of a situation.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've got go get, do, have, make, and take. That is a lot of verbal power packed into 6 little words.
It really is. It's amazing how much we can express with just the small set of verbs.
Okay, so we've covered the verbs. Now let's move on to those little words that I like to think of as kind of like the glue that holds our conversations together. Those little conversational connectors?
Right.
So things like hi and bye and thanks and sorry. I mean, how deep can we really go with these?
You might be surprised. Even these seemingly simple expressions play a really vital role in how we interact with each other.
Okay.
For example, hi and hello, they're not just greetings. They signal that you're open to communication and connection.
Oh, so it's like setting the tone right from the start, like you're extending an invitation
Yeah.
to engage in a conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, and then on the flip side, we have bye.
Right, which signals, closure. It marks the end of the conversation, and, it allows us to transition smoothly out of the interaction.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered greeting and departing. But what about those little words that add a touch of, politeness and gratitude to our interactions?
You mean thanks and sorry?
Exactly.
Ah, yes. Those are powerful tools. They help us maintain social harmony, and they help us, navigate those little bumps in the road of human interaction.
Yeah. Thanks acknowledges a favor, right, or a kind gesture, and it, reinforces those positive interactions that we have. And sorry is all about taking responsibility for something, smoothing over those mistakes and showing empathy.
Exactly. They're subtle, but they're really essential for building good relationships.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how we often, modify these words for emphasis, like saying thanks a lot. It carries a lot more weight than a simple thanks.
Oh, definitely.
Or I'm so sorry versus just sorry. It adds that extra layer of sincerity.
Exactly. These little nuances can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've explored 6 key verbs and 4 of these essential conversational words.
We have.
Are you starting to see the power of these seemingly simple words?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we're peeling back the layers and discovering all this hidden depth to language.
I agree.
All right, so I think we're ready to tackle our next category, which is nouns. So where do we even begin with this?
Well, our source has chosen a handful of nouns that represent fundamental concepts, the building blocks of how we understand the world.
Okay.
So let's start with time.
Okay, time.
Such a basic concept, yet it governs so much of our lives.
Right. We're constantly thinking of time. What time is it? Do we have enough time? It's like this invisible force shaping our days.
Right. And the source actually delves into some pretty deep questions about time.
Oh, really?
Like, how do different cultures perceive time? What's the relationship between time and memory? It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. All right, so alongside time, we have day, which seems, very ordinary. But, it really does mark the rhythm of our lives. Have a good day. It's a brand new day.
Right. And day can also refer to a specific period in history, like back in the day or the day the music died. It connects us to this flow of time, both personal and historical.
Wow, I like that. Okay, what's next?
Next up is thing, which I have to admit always makes me chuckle a little bit.
Why is that?
Well, it's like the ultimate catch-all word, for when our vocabulary fails us.
Oh, yeah. It's like the ultimate placeholder. What's that thing over there? The thing is. But, it's actually really effective at conveying meaning, even when we can't come up with, a more specific word.
Right. It shows that communication isn't always about, perfect grammar or an extensive vocabulary. It's about getting your message across. And sometimes thing does the job perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so speaking of conveying meaning, we've got place next on our list. It seems like a pretty straightforward word, but I'm sure there's more to it than meets the eye.
There is. Place isn't just about physical location. It can also refer to a position in a sequence, like take your place in line, or even a state of mind, like feeling out of place. It's a word that helps us navigate the world in all sorts of ways.
Right. It's like place isn't just about where we are physically, but also about how we fit in.
Exactly.
And how we make sense of our surroundings.
Exactly.
Okay. And then finally we have people, which, it's it seems so obvious, but, when you think about it, people are really what makes the world go round, right?
That's true.
People represents our shared humanity.
Right.
That's the foundation of society and relationships and, everything that makes us human.
It's the word that reminds us we're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've explored verbs, conversational connectors, and now nouns. I'm already feeling like I have a whole new appreciation for the power of these everyday words. But before we jump into adjectives, I'm curious, what's standing out to you so far?
Honestly, I think what struck me the most is how much depth and nuance there is, even in the simplest words. We use them all the time, but we don't often stop and think about how they work.
Yeah. It's like we're taking them for granted.
Totally.
But I think this deep dive is really helping us to, kind of slow down and appreciate the intricacies of these words that we usually just take for granted.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So adjectives, I think we're ready.
Let's do it. You know, it's funny how we can go through like our whole lives using these words and never really stop to think about them.
Right. It's true. But that's, I think, what makes this deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like we're forced to slow down and actually like appreciate these things that we usually just, take for granted.
Yeah.
So last we left off, we were about to delve into the world of adjectives. So are you ready to add some color to our conversation?
Absolutely. Adjectives are what bring our language to life.
Yeah, they do.
They paint pictures in our minds, they evoke emotions, and they help us make sense of the world.
I love that. So true. And they add, that extra layer of detail that just makes our communication so much richer. Okay, so why don't we start with good? I feel like that's like the most basic adjective in the English language.
It really is. Good is our go-to word for expressing approval or satisfaction or, just like the absence of anything negative.
Right.
It's a wonderfully versatile word.
It is.
You can use it for pretty much anything.
I've noticed that good is often used as kind of a conversational placeholder, especially when we're trying to be polite. Or avoid being too critical. Like, oh, that's a good point. Even if you don't really agree with what the person is saying.
Right. It's like a way of maintaining harmony.
Yeah.
Smoothing over those potential disagreements or awkward moments.
Right. Okay, so good is all about positivity and agreeableness. What about new? What kind of energy does new bring?
New is all about excitement, possibility, a sense of change. It draws our attention to something fresh, something that stands out from the ordinary.
Right.
Think about like getting a new phone or starting a new job.
Right.
There's that element of curiosity and intrigue.
There is. It makes you want to learn more to explore. And it can also be a really powerful marketing tool.
Right.
New and improved, the latest and greatest.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like designed to pique our interest.
Absolutely. New really taps into that human desire for novelty and fascination with progress.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, new can also highlight a lack of experience.
That's true.
Like new to the job or a new driver.
Right.
It implies a learning curve.
Definitely.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Right.
Right. It can be exhilarating,
right,
but it can also be intimidating.
Depending on the context.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered good and new. Ready to wrap things up with happy.
Let's do it. Happy is such a fundamental human emotion.
It is.
It resonates across cultures. It's the language of joy and contentment and well-being.
Yeah, and it's amazing how contagious happiness can be. Like when someone greets you with a genuine smile and I say good morning, it can like brighten your whole day.
It's true. It's like this ripple effect.
Yeah.
Spreading positivity.
And happy isn't just about those fleeting moments of joy either.
Right.
It's about, that deeper sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, that sense of purpose.
Yeah. I think that's what makes happy such a powerful word. It encompasses such a, wide spectrum of positive emotions.
I agree.
Okay, so we've tackled adjectives, but I want to circle back to something you said earlier about how adjectives can paint pictures in our minds and evoke emotions. Do you think there's a connection between these simple adjectives and how we experience the world?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think the answer is yes. The words we use shape how we see things. They provide the framework for how we understand and interpret our experiences.
So, for example, if we're constantly using negative adjectives to describe ourselves or the world around us, we might actually start to see things more negatively.
Exactly. The language we use becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow.
It influences our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately our actions.
That's a powerful reminder to be mindful of the words we choose.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Verbs, conversational connectors, nouns, adjectives.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we can learn from just 21 words.
It really is.
And we haven't even touched on phrasal verbs yet.
Oh, yes.
So those are next on our list. And I think you'll be surprised by how much they add to the richness and complexity of the language.
I think so too.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Bring on the phrasal verbs. All right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've already covered so much.
Yeah.
But before the break, you mentioned phrasal verbs. What are those exactly and why are they so important?
So phrasal verbs are basically like these combinations of a verb and another word, usually like a preposition or an adverb. And when you put them together, they create a totally new meaning.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so let's take the verb look. Pretty straightforward word, right? But when you start adding prepositions like up after or into, you get phrasal verbs with completely different meanings. So like look up means to search for information.
Right.
Look after means to take care of someone. And look into means to investigate something.
Wow, you're right.
So you see how just a little tweak can make our language so much more expressive.
Yeah, absolutely. So are phrasal verbs just about like adding more words to our vocabulary?
It's more than just adding words. It's about nuance. It's about idiom. Phrasal verbs capture these subtle shades of meaning that would be really hard to express otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
And they make your English sound much more natural, more like a native speaker.
So if they're so nuanced, how do we even begin to learn all of them?
Well, the good news is you don't have to learn every single phrasal verb out there.
Yeah.
Just focus on the most common ones, the ones that come up a lot in everyday conversations.
Okay, that makes sense.
And pay attention to the context, because phrasal verbs can have different meanings depending on the situation.
Right.
So try to learn them in real life examples, not just from lists.
So instead of just memorizing look up, I should try to remember it in a sentence. I need to look at the meaning of this word.
Exactly. Because then you're associating the phrasal verb with a specific meaning and a specific usage.
That's really helpful.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
The best way to learn phrasal verbs is to actually use them. Start incorporating them into your conversations, even if you're not 100% sure you're using them correctly.
So what if I make a mistake?
Making mistakes is part of the learning process. Even native speakers make mistakes with phrasal verbs all the time.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
So don't worry too much about it. Just practice and you'll get more comfortable over time.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about verbs, conversational connectors, nouns, adjectives, and now phrasal verbs. It's pretty amazing how much we can learn from just 21 words.
It really is. I think it just goes to show the power of language.
Yeah.
And how these simple building blocks can be used to express so many different things.
So what's the main takeaway you hope listeners will, walk away with from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing to remember is that fluency isn't about memorizing a huge vocabulary or mastering all the grammar rules. It's about understanding the basic principles of how language works.
Okay.
And then using those principles to communicate effectively.
So it's not about quantity,
Right.
It's about quality.
Exactly. By focusing on these 21 words, you're not just learning vocabulary, you're gaining a deeper understanding of how English works.
I love that.
Yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to challenge our listeners to do after this deep dive?
I would challenge them to really pay attention to how these 21 words are being used all around them. Listen to conversations, read books and articles, and see if you can notice how these words are like the threads that hold everything together.
I like that. It's like a treasure hunt.
It is.
And the more you find, the better you'll become at understanding and speaking the language.
Exactly.
Well, this has been such an eye-opening deep dive for me. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
And I definitely have a new appreciation for these words that we use every day. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time for another deep dive. All right, so you're looking to really master English quickly and effectively.
Right.
So let's dive into this.
Okay.
The secret sauce revealed in your sources.
Sure.
It's mastering the 4 key language skills. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Okay.
We'll unpack each of those skills.
Yeah.
Sprinkle in some practical tips.
Right.
Some relatable examples, and we'll basically create your roadmap to fluency.
It's interesting because those 4 skills aren't just for English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the foundation of any language.
Interesting.
You soak up language through listening, you communicate through speaking, you explore the world through reading, and express yourself through writing.
Okay.
So it's really the foundation of communication.
Gotcha. So listening.
Yeah.
It's the base. It's the way we naturally absorb language, just like babies do.
Right.
Before they can even utter a word.
Yeah.
Immersing yourself is key.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more to it than that, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Think about how parents instinctively talk to their kids.
Oh, okay.
Simpler words, they slow down.
Right.
They emphasize key sounds.
Yeah.
Well, that same principle applies to learning any language.
Interesting.
Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig.
Yeah, with its clear pronunciation and simple storylines,
Okay.
is a surprisingly effective tool for tuning your ears to the rhythm and sounds of English.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I see how that simplified input can really help with picking up the basics.
Right.
But what about those of us who maybe aren't into cartoons?
Yeah.
How do we immerse ourselves effectively?
Subtitles are your secret weapon.
Ooh.
Start with your favorite shows.
Okay.
Friends, Stranger Things,
Yeah.
anything that you enjoy.
Gotcha.
Watching with English subtitles lets you read and listen simultaneously,
Right.
reinforcing your comprehension.
Okay.
Then try watching the same scene without subtitles to test yourself.
So it's like training wheels for your ears.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it ties into the idea of active listening.
Oh, okay.
which goes beyond just passively hearing the words.
Okay.
You're mimicking pronunciation,
Right.
paying attention to tone,
Yeah.
and truly engaging with the nuances of spoken English.
Active listening. I like that.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more deliberate and purposeful than just having the TV on in the background.
Right.
Okay, so we've got listening down.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
speaking,
Yeah.
that's often the trickiest part, right?
Absolutely.
It's easy to feel self-conscious about making mistakes.
One technique that can help you overcome that fear and build confidence is shadowing.
Shadowing.
You listen to a sentence and you repeat it immediately, mimicking the speaker's tone and rhythm.
Oh, okay.
Want to try it?
Yeah.
Repeat after me.
Okay.
I'd like a cup of coffee, please.
I'd like a cup of coffee, please.
Hey, it's already making you think about your pronunciation more.
It is.
Yeah.
I like that.
And don't underestimate the power of everyday conversations,
Oh.
even if it's just talking to yourself.
Interesting.
Describe what you're doing as you go about your day.
Right.
I'm cooking dinner. I'm walking the dog.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
So it's about finding those little opportunities to practice speaking,
Precisely.
even if it feels a bit silly at first.
Exactly. And when it comes to speaking,
Yeah.
remember that learning sentence patterns
Okay.
is more effective than memorizing isolated words.
Interesting.
Let's revisit that coffee example.
All right.
Once you've got, I'd like a cup of coffee down,
Mm-hmm.
you can swap coffee for tea,
Right.
water,
Uh-huh.
a slice of cake.
Yeah.
Suddenly you've unlocked a flexible phrase for a variety of situations.
Okay, that's a really helpful way to think about it.
Yeah.
Instead of memorizing a whole dictionary,
Right.
you're learning the building blocks of sentences
Mm-hmm.
and how to adapt them.
Exactly.
So we've covered listening and speaking.
Yeah.
What about reading?
Reading is like a treasure trove for expanding your vocabulary, absorbing grammar naturally, and simply enjoying the learning process.
But I imagine it can be a bit overwhelming.
Ah.
Where do you even start?
It doesn't have to be intimidating.
Yeah.
Start with materials you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Maybe news headlines,
Yeah.
a favorite blog,
Yeah.
even social media posts.
Okay.
The key is to find content that keeps you engaged
Right.
and coming back for more.
So instead of forcing myself to read classic literature that I don't understand,
Right.
I could start with something more my speed.
Exactly. And here's a tip.
Okay.
Don't get bogged down by every unfamiliar word.
Right.
Use context clues to guess the meaning.
Oh,
So
interesting.
for example,
Okay.
the restaurant was crowded,
Yeah.
so we decided to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't know crowded, you can infer it means something uncomfortable
Oh, okay.
or undesirable because they left.
Right. That's a great point. I do that all the time when I'm reading in my native language.
Mm-hmm.
Why not apply to English as well?
Precisely, it's about activating those critical thinking skills and becoming an active reader,
Right.
not just passively skimming the words. You can also make reading more interactive by underlining new words, writing them down, and even creating your own sentences with them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's about turning reading into an active learning experience
Exactly.
rather than just passively absorbing information.
Yeah.
It's listening, speaking, and reading covered.
Mm-hmm.
What about writing?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the one a lot of people struggle with.
Writing is a fantastic way to organize your thoughts,
Okay.
refine your grammar,
Right.
and flex those creative muscles in English.
Yeah.
And the best part is you can start small.
Okay.
Think about writing simple sentences about your daily routine.
All right.
I wake up at 7 a.m.
All right.
I eat breakfast at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, just those very basic things.
So it's not about writing the next great novel.
Exactly.
It's about getting comfortable expressing yourself in written English.
Precisely. And journaling in English is a great low-pressure practice.
Oh,
It's a private space to experiment with the language without fear of judgment.
right.
You can also leverage language exchange apps
Oh, yeah.
to get feedback from native speakers
Mm.
and learn from your mistakes.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's all about embracing those mistakes as opportunities to learn.
exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 skills:
Uh-huh.
listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Right.
They seem pretty interconnected, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Think of it like a web with each skill supporting and reinforcing the others.
Right.
When you listen, you're not just absorbing sounds.
Right.
You're also picking up on grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation.
Yeah.
When you speak,
Mm-hmm.
you're putting all of that knowledge into practice. And
Well,
when you read,
Yeah.
you're expanding your vocabulary,
Mm.
seeing how grammar works in different contexts, which then feeds into your writing.
It's just like this amazing cycle
Is.
of learning and reinforcement.
Absolutely.
The more you practice each skill, the stronger that web becomes.
Yeah.
Leading to greater fluency overall.
Right.
But how do we make sure we're actually practicing effectively?
That's where motivation and goal setting come in.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Motivation and goal setting.
We'll dive into those crucial aspects in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. I'm excited to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. It's fascinating how we often box in language learning as this rigid,
Right.
classroom-only activity.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's happening around us all the time.
That's so true. When you start seeing everyday moments
Yeah.
as learning opportunities,
Right.
it really does open up a whole new world.
Think about it. Every time you watch a movie,
Yeah.
listen to music, or even just glance at a menu,
Right.
you're engaging with English in some way.
It's like this constant stream of input, subtly shaping your understanding of the language.
And it doesn't have to be passive.
Okay.
You can turn those everyday encounters into active learning experiences.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
How do we make that happen?
Let's say you're watching a movie. Instead of just following the plot, pay attention to how the characters use certain phrases,
Right.
the tone they convey,
Yeah.
the rhythm of their speech.
So I'm not just watching for entertainment.
Right.
I'm actively analyzing how the language is being used.
Precisely. And you can apply the same principle to music.
Oh, okay.
Listen to the lyrics,
Yeah.
try to sing along, notice how the words are pronounced
Wow.
and how they flow together.
It's like training your ear
Exactly.
to pick up on those subtle nuances that make a language come alive.
Fluency isn't just about knowing grammar rules
Right.
or having a massive vocabulary. It's about using the language naturally and effortlessly like a native speaker,
Right. It's about feeling comfortable and confident.
expressing yourself no matter the situation.
And the more you expose yourself to the language
Yeah.
in these authentic contexts,
Right.
the more comfortable you'll become.
Okay. We've talked a lot about the individual skills,
Mm-hmm.
listening, speaking, reading, writing.
Right.
But how do they all work together to create that fluency we're aiming for?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Think of it like a web,
Right?
with each skill interconnected and reinforcing the others.
So when I'm listening to English,
Yeah.
I'm not just absorbing sounds.
Right.
I'm also picking up on grammar,
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary, and pronunciation.
Exactly. And when you speak, you're putting all that knowledge into practice,
Right.
solidifying it in your mind.
And reading expands my vocabulary.
Yes.
Showing me how grammar is used in different contexts.
Which in turn informs your writing
Oh, okay.
as you begin to use those new words and structures in your own work.
It's a beautiful cycle
Absolutely.
of learning and reinforcement. And the more you engage in each of these skills,
Yeah.
the stronger those connections become, leading to greater fluency and overall mastery of the language.
It's like working out a muscle,
Yeah,
making it stronger and more resilient with each exercise.
precisely. And just like with any workout, consistency is key.
Okay.
Even dedicating a few minutes each day to each skill
Mm-hmm.
can make a huge difference over time.
So don't get discouraged if you don't see results overnight.
Right.
Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
And the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I like that.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Embrace the challenges and celebrate those small victories along the way. After all, there's something incredibly rewarding
Yeah.
about being able to communicate in another language.
It's true. Connecting with people from different cultures,
Absolutely.
expanding your horizons. Those are amazing benefits.
It opens up a whole world of possibilities,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally.
And who knows, maybe one day our listener will be hosting their own podcast in English.
That would be a testament to the power of consistent practice
Right.
and a positive mindset.
Okay, so we've covered the fundamentals of the 4 skills,
Yeah,
the importance of everyday learning, and the power of consistency.
right.
But there's one crucial piece we haven't touched on yet:
And that is,
motivation.
yes.
The fuel that keeps us going,
Uh-huh.
especially when things get tough.
Right.
And of course, setting realistic goals
Yeah.
so we don't get overwhelmed.
Ah, yes. Motivation and goal setting, the compass and map for our language learning journey.
I like that.
We'll dive into those critical aspects after a quick break. Stay tuned.
So we're back, ready to unpack the power of motivation
Yeah.
and goal setting in your English learning journey.
Right.
You know, we've all hit those walls
Yeah.
where the motivation takes a nosedive.
For sure.
How do we keep the fire burning?
What's fascinating here is that motivation isn't this
Okay.
magical thing that appears. It's something you actively cultivate and nurture.
Right.
It all starts with connecting to your why.
Your why.
Yeah.
Okay, so dig deep. Why are you learning English?
Right.
What doors will it open?
Yeah.
Is it to travel the world?
Mm-hmm.
Connect with new people?
Mm-hmm.
Boost your career?
Yeah.
Or simply enjoy those books and movies in their original form?
Having a strong why is like your secret weapon.
Oh, okay.
When doubt or frustration creep in,
Right.
it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind of studying and lose sight of the bigger picture.
So it's like having a North Star
Exactly.
guiding you even when the path gets a bit rocky.
Yeah.
Speaking of navigating that path, how about setting goals?
Right.
It's tempting to aim for fluency in a few months,
Yeah.
but isn't that setting yourself up for a crash landing?
Absolutely. Setting smaller, achievable goals is key to maintaining momentum and celebrating those wins along the way.
Yeah.
Instead of, I want to be fluent in 6 months,
Okay.
break it down. Maybe it's, I want to comfortably chat about my hobbies, or I want to read a short story without a dictionary.
Right. So those smaller victories fuel the motivation to keep going.
Exactly.
And it makes the whole process less intimidating.
For sure.
But even with smaller goals, we need to be honest about our time.
Exactly. How much time can you realistically dedicate to learning each week?
Right.
Be specific. Create a schedule that works for you and stick to it.
Okay.
Consistency trumps intensity when it comes to language learning.
So 30 minutes a day is better than cramming for 3 hours once a week.
Exactly.
It's like those little deposits in a savings account.
Right.
They add up over time.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
It's fascinating how much progress you can make with consistent effort, even if it's just a little bit each day.
Right.
And don't forget to celebrate those milestones.
Oh, okay.
Acknowledge your progress. Reward yourself.
Yeah.
Let those successes fuel your motivation.
It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back and saying, hey, I'm doing this.
Exactly.
I'm moving forward.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it's important to remember that the journey of learning English is just as important as the destination.
Right.
Have fun with it.
Couldn't agree more. So there you have it.
Okay.
We've explored the 4 essential skills, the power of finding those everyday learning opportunities, and the vital roles of motivation and goal setting.
Yeah.
You've now got the tools,
Okay.
the insights and inspiration to unlock your full language potential.
Awesome.
It's time to define your why, set those realistic goals, and get to work.
So to wrap things up, for anyone listening who wants to master English quickly and effectively, remember it all comes down to mastering those 4 key skills.
Right.
Listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Yeah.
And as we've learned today, the best way to tackle these skills is to find a method that works for you. Stay motivated by connecting to your personal why. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yeah, and remember, consistency is key.
Right.
Keep practicing, keep learning,
Absolutely.
and most importantly, have fun with it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English language learning.
It was my pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something you use every day, probably without even thinking about it too much.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Numbers and time.
Okay, interesting. And how are we diving into that?
Well, our roadmap for this deep dive is a 100-minute lesson plan.
100 minutes. That's pretty intense.
Well, don't worry. We're giving you the express tour.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
I mean, you might be thinking, I already know numbers. I know how to tell time. But, think about it this way. This deep dive is about the structure of how we learn these concepts.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Like whether you're teaching these concepts to somebody else, or maybe you're learning a new language, or maybe you're just fascinated by those everyday things that we kind of take for granted.
Yeah, it's funny how the most basic things can actually be pretty complex when you really look at them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I found really interesting about this lesson plan that we're looking at is how systematic it is.
Oh, interesting.
Like it starts with the most basic building blocks and then methodically adds complexity as it goes.
So it shows how our brains build up to a really sophisticated understanding, but from a simple starting point.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool. And it jumps right in with numbers. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Well, it actually starts with counting 1 to 20 first.
Okay, that does seem pretty basic.
Yeah. But does it really? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, getting the number order right was a big deal. Why does 7 come after 6?
It's funny because when you think about it, that decimal system that we use every day it really relies on understanding those first 10 digits, right? And then you build from there. And even across languages, a lot of languages have similar structures for those early numbers.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's kind of a common starting point for communication no matter where you are in the world.
So it's sort of like a universal language in a way.
In a way, yeah. Like a Rosetta Stone for numbers.
I like that. But then English gets tricky, right? Like 13 versus 30.
Ugh, don't even get me started. I still mix those up sometimes.
I know. It's like, why does English have to be so complicated sometimes?
Well, and the lesson plan actually highlights those pronunciation pitfalls early on.
Ooh, that's sorry.
Like right from the beginning. It's like, okay, watch out for these. So after you get 1 to 20 down, then it moves on to like, how do you build bigger numbers? Like all the way up to 99.
And that's where understanding place value becomes like really, really important. For
Place value. Right?
Yeah, like 21, 32, 45. It's all about seeing the pattern, how the tens and the ones like work together.
Oh, okay. So it's like you're cracking a code.
Exactly. It's like a number code.
So we've cracked the code up to 99.
We're on a roll.
But what about those giant numbers? Like, does it cover those too?
It does. So this lesson plan goes all the way up to 10,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it really emphasizes that logic of thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones.
Okay, so it's still building on that same foundation, even when you get to those really big numbers.
Exactly. It's all connected. And it even touches on Roman numerals, which I think is really fascinating.
Roman numerals, like IVX.
Yeah, because it shows how differently like ancient civilizations approached numbers.
Oh, that's cool. It's like a totally different way of thinking about it.
Right. It's like a whole other number system.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second.
Yep.
How does this lesson plan actually help someone like use numbers in everyday life?
That's a good question. Like, it's great to know the theory, but how do you actually put it into practice?
Well, that's where it gets really practical. The lesson plan includes things like phone numbers, asking someone's age, talking about money.
Oh, okay. So like real world scenarios.
Exactly. Using phrases you'd actually encounter in daily conversations.
So it's kind of like a cheat sheet for real life conversations.
Exactly. And there's even a suggestion for a game of number bingo.
Bingo, like with numbers instead of letters.
Yeah. I mean, I love bingo, but do you think it actually helps with numbers, or is it just like a fun activity?
Oh, I think games are fantastic for learning, especially for kids.
Oh, yeah.
Bingo can really help reinforce number recognition, the order of numbers.
And it's fun, so that's a bonus.
Exactly. Plus, a little friendly competition never hurt anyone.
Okay, so we've conquered the world of numbers.
At least up to 10,000.
But what about time? How does this lesson plan tackle that?
Crime is next, and the lesson plan starts by addressing the two main ways we see time: analog and digital clocks.
Yeah, those are like the two biggies.
Right, and making sure you're comfortable with both is really key because you encounter both in the real world.
It's funny, I'm so used to digital clocks now that I almost forget how to read an analog clock sometimes.
I know, right? It's like a lost art.
But the lesson plan uses those like classic phrases for telling time, like o'clock, quarter past, quarter to. But are those really universal? Like, do people in other countries say it the same way? That's a great question, and it actually brings up the like cultural aspect of time telling.
Interesting.
Like, those phrases are pretty common in a lot of English-speaking regions, but other cultures might have totally different ways of expressing those fractions of an hour.
So even something as basic as like quarter past isn't so straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. It really depends on where you are in the world and what language you're speaking.
Wow, I never thought about that before. So this lesson plan is making me realize there's a lot more to numbers and time than I initially thought.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
And the lesson plan also really emphasizes using a real clock to practice telling time.
Oh yeah, that visual element is so important, especially if you're someone who learns best by seeing things.
So you can actually see the hands moving as you're saying the phrases.
Right. It helps solidify that connection between the like abstract idea of time and its physical representation.
So it's like you're making time tangible.
Exactly. You can actually see it happening.
That's pretty cool. And what I really appreciate about this lesson plan is how specific it is about like the actual phrases you would use for asking and telling time.
Oh yeah, it gives you the words.
Yeah, it's not just about understanding what time it is, it's about how to actually say it in conversation.
So it's like giving you the script for those everyday interactions.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be super helpful for someone learning English or even just someone who gets like tongue-tied asking for the time.
I know, right? It can be surprisingly tricky.
It's like suddenly you forget how to say the simplest things.
Exactly. And this lesson plan, it just takes away all that guesswork and helps you build confidence.
And just like with the number section, it also encourages role-playing to practice those time-telling skills.
Oh, that's great. So you're not just learning the words, you're actually using them.
It's like putting it all into action.
Exactly. Learning by doing.
So where does this deep dive go from here? We've covered numbers, we've tackled telling time. What's next?
Well, now it gets personal.
Ooh,
The lesson plan shifts its focus to how we use numbers and time in our own daily lives.
Okay, now that's something I can relate to. I mean, everyone has a routine, right?
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
That way.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be back. So last time we were talking about how this lesson plan takes a really personal turn.
Yeah, it starts to focus on how we actually use numbers and time in our day-to-day life.
Like our routines.
Exactly. Waking up, going to work, bedtime, those everyday things.
Like they were reading my diary or something.
Right. But it's so smart how they incorporate the numbers and time telling we learned in the first part. It's not just about the concepts anymore. It's about applying them.
Oh, so they actually give you ways to practice.
Yeah, like they actually suggest students write out their daily routines.
Oh, interesting. So instead of just saying, I wake up at 7, you'd write.
I wake up at 7 o'clock, or I wake up at 7:15. Using those specific phrases.
Right. So it reinforces what you've learned, but it's also personalized.
Exactly. And it made me think, we talk about routines all the time, but do we ever really stop and analyze them?
Analyze them. How do you mean?
Well, how much of our day is really dictated by the clock versus how much is actually our own choice?
That's a good question. Never really thought about it that way.
But the lesson plan doesn't just stop at routines, does it?
Nope. It goes beyond those basic routines and gets into things like appointments and transportation schedules.
Oh, okay. Stuff that can get a little tricky if you're not really comfortable with numbers and time.
Right. Like imagine trying to catch a bus or make a doctor's appointment if you can't clearly communicate what time you need to be there.
Oh, yeah. That's when it stops being theoretical and starts being like real life stress.
Exactly. And that's why this lesson plan is so helpful. It gives you those tools to feel confident and in control, even in situations where you might feel a little anxious.
Makes sense. But how do you actually know if someone's really grasped all this? Is there a test? Of course. There's another quiz, and this time it mixes numbers and time together.
Ooh, a combo quiz. That sounds like a good challenge. Though, sometimes I think I learn more from making up the questions than actually answering them.
Oh, I totally agree. When you have to come up with the questions, you have to think about the material in a whole different way.
Yeah, you have to anticipate what someone else might need to know, and that really helps you understand it better yourself.
So maybe we should encourage our listener to try making their own quizzes about numbers and time.
Ooh, I like that. Like a deep dive challenge for our listeners. But before we get too carried away with quiz making, let's step back for a second.
Okay.
What have we actually learned from this deep dive into the lesson plan so far?
Well, I think it shows that even with something as basic as numbers and time, there's real method to learning them.
Like a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Right.
You start with the building blocks and then you layer on complexity, always making sure to connect back to how you'd actually use this stuff in real life.
It's like a reminder that learning should be both structured and meaningful.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting how interconnected everything is. We started with numbers, then time, then routines, and now these more complex scenarios.
It's like it all builds on itself.
Right. It's not just separate topics, it's all woven together.
And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll see how this lesson plan really pushes learners to become fluent and confident with numbers and time in any situation.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into numbers and time. It's amazing how much ground we've covered, right?
It really is. We started with something as simple as counting to 20, and now look at us.
It's all thanks to this amazing lesson plan. The last part, we were talking about how it gets into these more real-life situations.
Yeah, like going to appointments, figuring out travel schedules, the stuff that can be kind of stressful if you're not totally comfortable with the language.
Exactly. And it's here, in this final stretch, that the lesson plan really seems to emphasize, conversational fluency.
Oh, for sure. It's okay, you've got the basics. Now let's make sure you can actually use them in real life.
So you're not just understanding numbers and time, you're actually able to use them without even thinking about it.
Right, it becomes second nature.
So it's like taking all those building blocks that we've been working with and turning them into a fully functional communication system.
I like that, a communication system. It's about bridging that gap between what you know in your head and what you can actually do out in the world.
Exactly. And one of the ways this lesson plan does that is through a final quiz. We talked about quizzes before, and I know you're a big fan of making your own quizzes.
Oh yeah, always a good challenge.
But what's special about this final quiz in the lesson plan?
Well, it's designed to be more challenging than the previous ones. It brings together numbers and time in these more complex scenarios.
So it's not just what time is it?
No, it's more like, okay, if the train leaves at 4:15 and the journey takes 35 minutes, what time will you arrive? Stuff like that.
Ooh. Okay, that does sound a bit trickier.
It really makes you think, right? You have to do some calculations, put different pieces of information together.
And be able to explain your answer clearly.
Exactly. It's impressive considering this lesson plan started with basic counting.
It really is. But aside from quizzes, are there other ways the lesson plan encourages this real-world fluency?
Definitely. One of the last activities is a conversation practice where learners pair up and act out different scenarios.
Oh, fun.
It's like the grand finale. It brings everything together. Numbers, time, all the vocabulary they've learned.
Like they're finally performing on stage after weeks of rehearsals.
Exactly. And I bet it can be a bit nerve-wracking, putting yourself out there.
And also exciting, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a safe space to make mistakes and learn from them. And the more you practice, the more natural it all becomes.
So it's really about going beyond just knowing the material. It's about developing those communication skills.
For sure. It's about giving learners the confidence to navigate everyday situations.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
We've seen how a well-structured lesson plan can take you from basic counting all the way to feeling empowered to use numbers and time in your everyday life.
And it's a great reminder that learning should be both fun and effective. I mean, who knew a deep dive into a 100-minute lesson plan could be so interesting?
So to all our listeners out there, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep challenging yourselves to learn new things. Until next time. Okay, so have you ever when you're trying to explain something and you can't think of the right word.
Right.
It's I want to say more than good,
Yeah.
I want to really capture how awesome this thing is, but good is all that's coming out.
For sure. For sure.
So I think that happens to all of us, right?
Totally. I think that's something we can all relate to.
So today we're going to look at how to really level up our vocabulary.
Okay.
And we're going to be using this lesson that was designed to help people learning English.
Cool.
But this is for anyone who wants to sound more interesting or who wants to write in a more compelling way.
Yeah.
So I think we can all benefit from this.
Definitely. I mean, who wouldn't want to expand their vocabulary and express themselves more effectively, right?
Exactly. So it's not about becoming a walking thesaurus or anything like that.
No, not at all.
It's more about finding those perfect words to really elevate our communication.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond just those basic labels and really getting to the heart of what makes something special or interesting or, even controversial.
Right. And what are some of the mistakes you see people making when they're trying to use more advanced vocabulary?
Well, I think a common one is reaching for the most complex word they can find, thinking it'll make them sound smarter.
Oh, yeah.
But that often backfires.
Uh-huh.
The real skill is in choosing words that fit the context and convey the specific nuance you're going for.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So this source we're looking at, they talk about the word good.
Okay.
And how you could say remarkable or exceptional or outstanding.
Right.
But you wouldn't want to say oh, my lunch with my friend was outstanding.
Exactly. Outstanding implies something that really stands out from the crowd.
Yeah.
While remarkable might be a better fit for something that's, simply worth noting.
Okay, so it's about choosing the right word for the situation.
Precisely. It's like having a toolbox full of different tools and knowing which one to use for each specific task.
Yeah, so it's more than just grabbing the biggest word.
Exactly.
It's about being thoughtful about it.
Exactly. Thoughtfulness and precision. Yeah. Those are key.
So this lesson also has some exercises to help us internalize these new words.
Yes, it does. It offers several practical ways to really practice and integrate these words into your everyday language.
What are some of those?
Well, there's the classic fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Where you replace basic words with more interesting alternatives.
Gotcha.
So instead of saying he had a good idea, you could say he had a brilliant idea.
Okay. And that just makes it
exactly
more vivid.
Yes, exactly. Brilliant conveys a sense of ingenuity and originality that good just doesn't capture.
Right. So you're not just like finding a longer word.
Right.
You're actually finding a more
Yeah,
fitting word.
exactly.
And that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it also has you rewrite sentences to use those new words.
Yes, that's another great exercise. It challenges you to think about how these words function in different contexts.
And I thought it was really cool they included this short story
Uh-huh.
that was written first with like basic words.
Right.
And then with more advanced vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see the difference.
It really highlights the impact of word choice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So this first sentence says, "The old house stood on a hill overlooking the town. It was a beautiful day and the sun was shining brightly."
Okay.
But then when they jazz it up with better words, they say, "The ancient manor perched atop the hill, casting a watchful gaze over the bustling town below. The day shimmered with an ethereal beauty, the sun's rays painting the landscape in hues of gold."
Wow, that's quite a transformation.
It is, right.
The second version is so much more evocative and immersive.
Yeah, and I just love how they did that.
It's amazing what a few well-chosen words can do.
Yeah, like ancient manor
Yeah.
is so much better than old house.
Absolutely. It conjures up images of history and grandeur.
Yeah, and you can just like picture it.
Exactly. You can practically feel the weight of the centuries in that phrase.
Yeah, and then it says, "The day shimmered with an ethereal beauty," instead of just beautiful day.
Yes. It's like the words themselves are painting a picture.
Right, and that's what I'm always trying to do.
Of course.
But I'm like, how do I do that?
Right.
So this is really cool.
It's a great example of how vocabulary can elevate your writing.
So this is cool for writing, but like, what about just like talking or like sending an email or something?
That's where context comes in.
Okay.
You know, you wouldn't use the same language in a professional email as you would in a casual conversation with friends.
So we don't want to like sound like Shakespeare all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about being aware of your audience and the situation.
So we've seen that choosing the right word can make a big impact.
Mhm.
But how do we actually like learn all these new words?
Well, luckily, this lesson provides some fantastic tips for expanding your vocabulary, and I think they'll be really helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Okay, let's dive in. So the first tip is to read a lot.
Okay.
But they say don't just read. Like when you see a word you don't know,
Yeah.
write it down or highlight it.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like I read stuff all the time.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting word.
Yeah.
But then I just keep reading.
Exactly, and it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Totally.
But when you actually take the time to write it down or highlight it,
Yeah,
you're forced to really think about it.
right. And then maybe even look it up.
Exactly. And that makes a big difference in terms of actually remembering the word.
It's like taking notes in class.
Yeah, it's like active learning versus passive learning.
So what's the next tip?
Okay, so this one's interesting. They say to use a synonym finder,
Okay.
but not just for single words,
Uh-huh.
but for whole phrases.
What do you mean?
So let's say you're writing and you say, "I had a really good time at the party."
Okay.
Instead of just looking up a synonym for good, you could plug that whole phrase into a synonym finder,
Right.
and you might find something like, "I had a blast at the party,"
Ooh, that's good.
or "The party was an absolute delight."
It just sounds more.
Exactly. It adds more flavor and personality to your writing.
So it's like you're not just swapping out one word.
Right.
You're finding like a better way to say the whole thing.
Exactly. And it can really help you break out of those writing ruts we all fall into.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then they say to actually use the new words.
Yes. Practice is key.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I feel like if I try to use a word I just learned, it'll sound weird.
Well, it might feel a little awkward at first,
Yeah.
but the more you use it,
Uh-huh.
the more natural it will become.
So just try to work it into conversations.
Exactly. You can also try writing practice sentences or even using it in your journal.
Okay, so just find ways to use it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So another tip is to immerse yourself in the language.
Okay, so
Yeah.
watch movies and stuff.
Yes. Watch movies, TV shows, listen to podcasts.
But we talked about how just passively watching something
Right.
doesn't really help.
Exactly. You need to be an active listener.
Okay, how do you do that?
Pay attention to how native speakers use language.
Okay.
What words do they choose? How
Yeah.
do they express their emotions?
Yeah.
Really listen to the nuances of their speech.
So it's I'm trying to learn something.
Exactly. Be a student of the language.
Oh,
And don't be afraid to pause and rewind if you hear a word or phrase you don't understand.
Gotcha. So I'm not just like vegging out.
Right.
I'm actually paying attention.
Exactly. You're turning entertainment into a learning opportunity.
I like that. And what's the last tip?
Okay, so the last one is all about review and revision.
Ooh, that's where I struggle.
Yeah, it's easy to learn new words and then forget them.
Totally.
So it's important to create a system for reviewing the words you've learned.
Okay, so like flashcards or something?
Exactly. Flashcards are great. You can also create your own vocabulary list and quiz yourself regularly.
Okay, and just like make sure I'm using the words.
Exactly. The more you use them,
Yeah.
the more likely you are to remember them.
This is really about building good habits.
Exactly. Consistency is key when it comes to vocabulary growth.
I like that. And like, what about finding people to talk to?
Yes, that's a great idea.
Like maybe a book club or something.
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with people who share your love of language can be incredibly motivating.
And then they can like correct me if I use a word wrong.
Exactly. It's a supportive environment where you can practice and learn from each other.
I like that. So we're like building our own language toolbox?
Yes, exactly. And the more tools we have, the better equipped we are to communicate effectively.
I love that. And I'm curious, like, have you ever come across a word or phrase that just like blew your mind?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there have been so many, but one that really sticks out is from The Great Gatsby.
Okay.
Fitzgerald's use of language in that book is just so exquisite.
Oh, I love that book.
It's a masterpiece, and his descriptions are so vivid and evocative.
Yeah, you can just like feel the longing and the glamour.
Exactly. It's like you're transported right into that world.
Yeah, it makes you realize like how powerful words can be.
Absolutely. Words have the power to move us, to inspire us, to change us.
And we can all do that.
Exactly. We can all use language to create beauty and meaning in the world.
So for our listeners who are like ready to level up their vocabulary,
Yeah.
what's like the one thing they should keep in mind?
I would say embrace curiosity.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment with language.
Yeah.
Have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
That's good advice. I make mistakes all the time.
We all do. It's part of the learning process.
So it's okay to like sound silly sometimes.
Exactly. Just keep practicing and you'll get more confident over time.
Well, this has been so much fun.
It has been a pleasure chatting with you.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's always a joy to talk about language.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this vocabulary adventure.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep playing with words.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring American versus British English,
Ooh.
focusing on greetings and introductions.
Fun.
And we'll be looking at this really interesting 20-minute script that is actually designed for accent practice.
Okay.
We're going to be doing a deep dive into it to look at those subtle signals, those greetings,
Yeah.
introductions, the subtle signals they send, and how those shape first impressions and communication styles.
Exactly. And it's amazing how much we can reveal about ourselves just through those initial greetings.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a handshake.
Yeah, like a linguistic handshake.
Yeah, you set the tone for the whole interaction.
Exactly. So let's jump right in with the basics.
Okay.
This script lays out classic greetings like the American "Hi, how are you?" and the British "Hello, how do you do?"
Yes.
And right away, you see that contrast between American casualness and that British formality.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to get your take on it. Is it just formality, or is there something deeper at play here?
Well, the British emphasis on formality, I think, has deep historical roots.
Okay.
You know, you think back to like Victorian era and all the etiquette that came with that time.
Right, all those very strict social structures.
Exactly. And so that emphasis on, properness and politeness
Yeah.
has carried through even to today.
Interesting.
So even a simple hello, how do you do
Yeah.
carries this weight of tradition and social expectation.
That makes total sense. So it's not that Brits are trying to be distant or cold. They're really just adhering to that script.
Right,
That
exactly.
cultural script that values that decorum.
Yes.
So
Now, on the American side, you have that culture that prizes egalitarianism and informality.
right.
And, think about the frontier spirit and melting pot of cultures.
Yeah.
People needed to connect quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
So that, hi, how are you? It cuts to the chase
Mm.
and really prioritizes friendliness and that approachability.
Yeah, it's like a fast track to
Yeah.
connection. You're skipping all those formalities to get right to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
But do you think that sometimes leads to misunderstandings, especially when Americans and Brits are interacting?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine an American just, greeting a British colleague with a loud "what's up,"
Right. Or
the Brit might be very taken aback.
like, whoa.
Yeah, and think it's very familiar or even rude. And the same way an American might perceive a Brit's reserve as being cold or standoffish. It's really all about understanding that cultural context.
Yeah, for sure. So how do we even begin to navigate these cultural differences? Are there any clues in this script that can help us kind of decode those cues?
Yes, actually, the script contrasts the American "how's it going"
Okay.
with the British "you all right."
You all right.
And to an American ear, that might sound like a genuine question about well-being.
Yeah.
But in British English, it's much more casual.
Oh.
It's more akin to "how's it going?"
So you're telling me if a British person asks me, "You all right?" I shouldn't launch into a story about,
Probably not.
my recent illness or something.
A simple, "yeah, fine, you," would suffice.
Okay.
It's all about listening for those subtle cues.
Right.
The tone, the context, to understand the meaning.
So much is being communicated under the surface.
Absolutely.
Wow. So I'm really itching to try out my American and British accents here.
Okay.
How do these phrases actually sound different?
Well, one of the key things that the script highlights is the R sound.
Okay.
Americans tend to pronounce R's very clearly, especially at the end of words.
Yeah?
So think about the American pronunciation of car.
Car.
Exactly. It's like reeling off the tongue.
It is.
Now, in British English, that R at the end of the word often softens or disappears completely. So car becomes more like ka.
Ka. Okay.
And this difference you'll see applies to many words and phrases.
So how are you? In American English, it's almost like, how are you? And then the British version is more like, how are you?
You've got it.
Wow.
And this difference in R pronunciation is just one example.
Okay.
There are also variations in vowel sounds and intonation.
Right.
And the way certain words are stressed.
Yeah.
But we can delve into those phonetic details later.
Okay, sounds good.
For now, let's maybe shift our focus to how these cultural and pronunciation differences play out in formal introductions.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so we've talked about those initial greetings, those casual like hellos and how are yous that set the stage
Right.
for an interaction. But what happens when things get a little more formal? How do Americans and Brits handle those more structured introductions?
Well, the script definitely offers some insights into that.
Okay.
And you'll find that those cultural and linguistic differences that we've been discussing, they become even more pronounced
Okay.
in those settings.
Yeah, I can see that. Think about those times when you're meeting someone for the first time in like a professional setting, or maybe you're being introduced to a friend's family.
Exactly.
The stakes feel a little higher, right?
Yes. You want to make a good impression.
Yeah, present yourself well.
Right.
And it seems like Americans and Brits approach this with different styles.
They do.
Yeah.
Let's look at an example from the script.
Okay.
In a formal American introduction, you might hear, "Good morning. My name is Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Sarah, I'm John Gettin. Nice to meet you too, John."
Very straightforward.
Yes. Very efficient.
Establish names, exchange pleasantries, you're good to go.
Exactly. Now contrast that with the British version.
Okay.
"Good morning. I'm Sarah. Pleased to meet you.
Okay.
Sarah, my name's John. Lovely to meet you too, John."
Lovely to meet you.
Did you notice the shift in word choice?
Yeah. Instead of nice to meet you, it's pleased to meet you.
Right.
Or even lovely to meet you.
Exactly. It feels much more formal.
It does. A little more elegant, I would even say.
And that's a deliberate stylistic choice.
Okay.
In British culture, formality is often seen as a sign of respect, especially in settings where hierarchy and tradition are still valued.
Yeah.
So "pleased to meet you" conveys a sense of deference.
It's almost like the language itself is bowing,
Yeah.
Acknowledging the interaction and the person you're meeting.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just the words, it's also the delivery.
Right.
British English in formal settings often uses a softer, more modulated tone.
Interesting. So while Americans might project warmth and enthusiasm
Right.
through volume, Brits convey respect and consideration through a more subdued tone.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how small differences create such distinct impressions.
It is, and these variations go beyond greetings.
Okay.
The script also points out differences in how Americans and Brits might ask questions.
Okay, like what?
An American might directly ask, "Are you new here?"
Direct to the point.
Now, a British person might phrase it as, "Are you new to the team?"
New to the team. That's
Subtle difference, but it reflects that British emphasis on group cohesion and subtly acknowledges the existing hierarchy within the team.
So Brits are thinking about those social dynamics.
Yes, very much so.
It's like they're playing linguistic chess.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And remember, this isn't about being stuffy.
Right.
It's a different cultural script for expressing politeness.
Yeah, it's about understanding those different scripts.
Yes.
To navigate those waters. So beyond recognizing words and phrases, what other clues should we be paying attention to?
Well, that leads us to nonverbal cues.
Body language.
Exactly. The way we stand, our facial expressions, tone of voice, eye contact.
It's all part of the message.
It is. It's like a secret language.
And those nonverbal cues can vary between cultures.
Absolutely.
So while this script gives us a great foundation,
Yes.
we have to remember that real-life interactions are more complex.
Right. We need to engage all our senses.
Yeah.
Not just listen to the words, but the tone, the pacing, the unspoken cues.
We're like detectives looking for clues.
Exactly.
In every gesture, every inflection.
And the more we pay attention to those details, the better we become at understanding those codes.
Decoding the matrix.
Yes.
Yeah.
But maybe it's time we shift our focus to the listener
Okay.
and their experiences with these differences.
So we talked about all these greetings and introductions.
Yeah.
But now I want to hear from you, the listener.
Yes.
What has stood out to you most?
Yeah. Any aha moments?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
have you had any experiences where a greeting or introduction just felt off?
Yeah, like maybe there was a disconnect in the tone or the
Yes.
formality.
Yeah. And those moments can be awkward,
They can't.
but they're also great learning opportunities
They are.
because it highlights those cultural differences we've been talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that communication is a two-way street.
Uh-huh.
We need to be mindful and adaptable.
Yeah. It's like when you travel to a new country
Right.
and a gesture you've always used suddenly means something completely different.
Oh, yeah.
It's humbling, but also a chance to learn,
Yes.
to broaden your perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
as you become more aware of these subtle differences,
Yeah.
you can start to adjust your own communication style
That's a good point.
and better connect with people from different cultures.
Yeah, and it's not about erasing your own way of speaking.
Right.
It's more about expanding your repertoire.
Exactly.
So you have different tools.
Yes, a linguistic toolkit.
Yeah, and you can choose the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
So one final thought before we wrap up.
Okay.
Do you think the way we greet each other actually influences how we perceive one another?
That's a good question.
Like if you changed your usual greeting style, what impact would that have?
I think even those small choices, the words we use, our tone,
Yeah.
can have a big impact.
It's like setting the tone.
Right. A warm greeting can create instant connection.
Yeah.
A formal one might signal respect.
Right. So it's about being intentional with our communication,
Yes.
recognizing every interaction shapes the dynamic.
It does.
Well, it's been a really fun deep dive
It has.
into the world of greetings and introductions.
Yeah.
So as we go out into the world, let's pay attention to those cues.
Yes.
Experiment with different readings and see how those choices shape our connections.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy communicating, everyone.
See you later.
All right, so are you ready to really level up those conversation skills? Today, we're going to dive deep into how to start conversations. The kind that don't just fizzle out after, just a couple of awkward exchanges.
Right.
And so get our source today. It gives you 25 questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But these aren't your typical small talk questions.
Okay.
They're designed to help you really connect with people on a deeper level.
Okay. So
Really?
not just how's the weather?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether you're at, networking event or a party or even just, chatting with someone new at the coffee shop.
I really like how our source today breaks these questions down into 5 categories.
Oh, yeah.
It's like having a roadmap, for all these different conversational situations.
I like that, a roadmap.
Yeah. So you've got your general questions, those are perfect for the initial icebreakers.
Uh-huh.
And then there are ones specifically for social settings, travel, and hobbies, work or school, and even fun personal preferences.
Okay. I totally get the whole categorization thing.
Right.
But how does asking someone about their favorite hobby actually lead to a deeper connection?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions with these kinds of questions.
Oh, I totally hear you.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Instead of asking a closed-ended question do you have any hobbies?
Right.
Which, you'll probably just get a yes or no.
Yeah.
You could ask something like, what project are you most excited about right now?
Ooh.
And suddenly you're not just asking about hobbies.
Yeah.
You're inviting them to share what they're passionate about.
Oh.
And that's where the magic happens.
I like that it's shifting from a checklist to uncovering what makes someone tick.
Yeah.
And I guess the different categories help you tailor your approach depending on the situation, right?
Exactly. So let's say you're at a networking event.
Okay.
You could try a question from the work or school category, like what's the most interesting challenge you faced in your work recently? It's way more engaging than just asking, what do you do?
What's funny is I actually tried that question at a networking event last week.
Oh, yeah.
And the person I was talking to, they totally lit up. They told me this whole story about a project they were working on.
Oh, wow.
And it turned into a really fascinating conversation. We even ended up exchanging contact info.
See?
Yeah.
It works.
It really does.
It's all about, finding those subtle ways to unlock deeper conversations.
Right.
And our source emphasizes that it's not just about the questions themselves.
Right.
It's about how you deliver them.
Oh, right. The source talks about smiling, being friendly, and most importantly, not worrying about making mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's something we all struggle with.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in new situations,
Right.
We get so caught up in trying to sound perfect
Right.
that we forget to just be ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's such a crucial point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about flawless execution.
Yeah.
It's about genuine connection.
Right.
People can tell when you're genuinely interested, even if you stumble over your words a bit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like that saying, people might forget like what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
I think that totally applies to conversations too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a welcoming space, where people feel like they can open up.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of opening up, the source also talks about like the power of open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious, do you have like a favorite example from those 25 questions that really shows this?
Let me think.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that pops into my mind is, what's your dream destination?
Okay.
It's from the travel and hobbies category,
Yeah.
but I think it goes way beyond just travel. It gets at people's like hopes and dreams, their sense of adventure.
I see what you mean.
It can spark a conversation about what truly excites them.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's not just about where they want to go on vacation. It's like a window into their inner world.
Exactly.
And you could like adapt that to other areas too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's a skill you'd love to learn someday?
Exactly. It invites them to share something they might not normally talk about.
Yeah, I feel like I get stuck asking the same old questions sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how's your weekend? Or
Yeah.
what are you working on? It's like I'm on autopilot.
Yeah.
And the conversation never goes anywhere interesting.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall back on those default questions, especially when you're feeling nervous.
Right.
But what I love about this source is that it gives you a way to break out of that rut.
Yeah.
To think more carefully about your questions and what you really want to learn about the other person.
So true. It's not about like memorizing a script or something. It's
Right.
about having a strategy.
Exactly.
Oh, and the source also mentions active listening.
Yes.
What does that mean to you, like when you're starting conversations?
Well, for me, active listening is about being present.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not just hearing their words, but truly absorbing what they're saying, paying attention to their body language, and responding in a way that shows you're engaged.
So it's not just about asking the right questions.
Right.
It's about making the other person feel heard.
Exactly. You're creating a space where they feel understood.
Okay, so it's like building a bridge of understanding.
Yes, I like that.
Each question is like a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And active listening is what holds it all together.
I love that analogy. And it reminds us that conversation is a two-way street.
Right. It's about giving and receiving, asking and listening.
Exactly. And when both people are present and engaged,
Yeah.
that's when you get those like real moments of connection.
Those aha moments.
Yes, you don't get those from small talk.
Okay, so I'm sold. These 25 questions are way more powerful than I thought.
I know, right?
But I gotta ask,
Yeah.
do you think there are times when a simple, direct question is better than an open-ended one?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And you're right. There are times when a direct question is more appropriate.
Okay.
Like if you need a specific piece of information or you're trying to clarify something.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when you're trying to build rapport,
Right.
open-ended questions are the way to go.
Makes sense. You got to use the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And sometimes it's about being playful with your questions, too.
No, yeah.
Don't be afraid to add a little humor,
The source has this question in the fun category that always cracks me up.
Oh, yeah?
It's, what's the most embarrassing song you secretly love?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know, right?
It's guaranteed to get people laughing.
And sharing stories.
Yeah, it's a great way to break the ice.
Exactly. It shows you don't take yourself too seriously.
Right, because in the end, conversations are about connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best way to do that is to just let loose and have fun.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like we've covered so much in this deep dive.
I know, right?
Like my whole view on how to start conversations has like totally shifted.
It's pretty cool how something so simple, like asking the right questions,
Right.
can make such a big difference in how we connect with people.
Totally. So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
what are like the main takeaways you'd want our listeners to remember?
Well, first of all, you know those categories.
Yeah.
Remember those having like a mental toolkit of questions for all those different situations?
Yeah.
That can really help you feel more confident. You know,
I like that.
no matter what the conversation throws at you.
It's like having a secret weapon for those moments, when you just go blank.
Exactly. And don't forget about the magic of open-ended questions.
Oh, right.
Those are key to like really getting those deep conversations going,
Yeah. It's about asking questions that get people to share their stories and their passions.
Yes. They're unique perspectives.
And of course, we can't forget about active listening.
Well, that's so important.
It's like the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, it lets you build those real connections.
It's amazing how much we can learn about someone when we really listen to what they have to say.
I know, it's true. So before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
Think about the last time you had a really great conversation. The kind that you just felt so engaged in.
Yeah.
What made it so memorable? Was it a certain question? Or the way the other person listened?
Yeah.
When we think back on our own experiences,
Right.
we can learn even more about how to have amazing conversations.
That's such a good point. We're always learning,
We are.
So go out there, experiment with these questions, and most importantly, have fun connecting with people.
Happy conversing.
All right. Ready to unlock some serious word power?
Oh, yeah.
We're taking a deep dive
Absolutely.
into 15 words
Okay.
that can make your English seriously sing. Think Shakespeare, but way less frilly collar,
Right. Not stuffy.
Yeah, exactly.
Not pretentious at all.
No, not at all. These are words that once you know them,
Yeah.
you can really use them to make your communication better,
It's true.
more interesting. So our source material is an article. It's called 15 Words for Outstanding English.
Okay.
But we're going to go deeper than that, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to figure out how to really use these words. So first up is perspicacious. They describe it as insightful, perceptive, like a detective cracking a case wide open.
I like that.
But what makes this more than just,
Right.
smart?
Being smart.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's that ability to see what others miss.
Okay.
So a perspicacious person doesn't just gather the information, connect the dots, they really understand
Right.
the why behind the what.
I see. So it's not just about noticing stuff. It's about...
It's with the insight, yeah.
Okay.
Think about, a leader who can predict market trends or something.
Ooh, or a friend.
Yeah.
Who just gives amazing advice.
Yeah, like really on point
Right.
advice.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's way more interesting than just being observant, like you said.
Yeah. Insightful is really the key here.
The article gives the example. Her perspicacious comments during the meeting showed her deep understanding of the project.
Okay.
I mean, that sounds like someone who's about to get a promotion.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly. And it's not just about business.
Yeah.
It's relevant in any field. I mean,
For sure.
a perspicacious historian can reframe our view of the past. A perspicacious artist
Yeah.
picks up on those subtle emotions
I see.
we might not even realize we're
Right.
expressing.
Yeah.
It's really powerful stuff.
Okay. All right. Now
Yeah.
this next word, obfuscate.
Ooh. Obfuscate.
This one sounds a little more like villainous, right?
Sure.
Like a bad guy.
A little bit sneaky.
Yeah.
The obfuscate is to deliberately make something unclear,
Okay.
muddy the waters,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
The article's example talks about like a lawyer trying to
Oh, yeah.
obfuscate the facts to confuse a jury.
Right. It's almost like a verbal smokescreen
Yeah.
just to kind of throw people off.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's not always about being like intentionally deceptive.
Good point.
Is it?
No, sometimes people
Yeah.
obfuscate without realizing it.
Oh, interesting.
Have you ever been stuck listening to someone explain something simple in the most complicated way possible?
Yes.
They might be unintentionally obfuscating.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the key here is to be aware of when we're doing it.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that person in the meeting. So how about something a little lighter?
Okay. Yeah.
Ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous.
This one feels very relevant to our world right now. It does. Like the modern world.
It means found everywhere.
Okay.
Literally.
Literally everywhere.
Yeah.
I like it.
The article talks about the ubiquitous smell of coffee in Paris.
Ooh.
Which
for anyone who's been, it's spot on.
Spot on.
But think beyond the physical.
Yeah.
Like what's ubiquitous?
Yeah, what's
your world?
ubiquitous in your world right now?
Easy. Social media trends.
Ooh, yes.
They pop up.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about them. Then poof.
Gone.
Replaced by the next big thing.
They're so fleeting.
It's fascinating and exhausting all at once.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that fleeting nature,
Yeah.
that's key to understanding ephemeral.
Yeah.
Our next word.
Okay.
It's about things that are beautiful, but temporary.
I like that.
Like cherry blossoms in bloom.
Beautiful. Or viral trends, as you said.
Yeah, exactly.
The article says the beauty of the cherry blossoms is ephemeral, lasting only a week.
I know.
It makes you realize, like, how precious those moments are.
It's true.
Like, you really have to
Yeah.
be present, knowing it's not going to last forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can apply that to
Sure.
more than just tangible things. Feelings can be ephemeral too.
Oh, wow.
Like that rush of excitement when you start a new project, or even the kind of bittersweet nostalgia of remembering childhood summers.
Ooh, deep thoughts happening over here.
I know, right?
Now, I gotta admit,
Okay.
discombobulate is just plain fun to say.
Discombobulate.
It sounds like what happens after one too many spins on a merry-go-round.
It does, doesn't it? It does, yeah.
The dictionary definition is to confuse or bewilder.
Right.
But there's almost a playful clumsiness to it
I agree.
that I kind of like.
I like that too.
The article uses the example of being discombobulated by, like, a tough interview question, which, I mean, we've all been there, right?
Oh, we've all been there.
But wouldn't you say there's a difference between being discombobulated and being straight up panicked?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Because discombobulation is more of a temporary state of like, what just happened? It's like your brain needs a moment to catch up.
Yeah. So it's not always a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Sometimes a little discombobulation can be invigorating.
Perhaps, yeah.
Right.
It can shake us out of our routine, force us to think differently.
Oh, I like that.
And that leads us perfectly into our next word.
Okay.
Which embodies this idea of surprise in a very positive way.
Ooh. Okay.
Serendipity.
Ooh, serendipity. I love that word.
It's a good one.
It's like stumbling on a hidden treasure when you least expect it.
You got it.
The article talks about the serendipity of, like, finding a beautiful spot while hiking.
Okay, yeah.
But it can be so much more than that, right?
It can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Serendipity is about those lucky coincidences that shape our lives in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
Meeting a future partner, discovering a new passion. Those moments where it feels like the universe is conspiring in your favor.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I think what makes serendipity so delightful is that we can't control it.
Right.
It just happens.
Yeah.
And we get to enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
Speaking of enjoying the ride,
Okay.
let's talk about voracious.
Ooh, voracious.
It's a word often associated with reading.
Right.
But it applies to anything we approach with, like intense enthusiasm.
That's right.
The article gives the example of someone who's a voracious reader, finishing 3 books a week.
Wow.
I admire that kind of dedication.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say voracious goes beyond just
I think so.
quantity?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's about that hunger, that intense desire to consume and experience whatever it is you're passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah, whether it's
knowledge, travel.
Right, or even, dare I say, podcasts.
Maybe.
Right.
Podcasts.
Now, wouldn't that be a compliment?
That would
To be known as a voracious listener.
a voracious listener.
Of the deep dive.
Of the deep dive. That's what we want. That's right.
Okay.
So, speaking of aspirations.
Yes.
Let's talk about eloquent.
Ooh, eloquent.
Yeah. This word kind of embodies the ideal of
Yeah.
expressing oneself beautifully and persuasively.
The article uses the example of, like, a speech so eloquent it moves the audience to tears.
Okay.
But it's not just about grand gestures, right?
Right.
Can't everyday conversations be eloquent?
You can. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Because eloquence isn't about flowery language or trying to sound smart.
Right.
It's about choosing your words carefully to convey your meaning with clarity and passion, maybe even a touch of poetry.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's about being intentional
It is.
with our language, even
Even in casual.
settings.
Yeah, that's something I think we can all work on.
We can all work on that.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. And as we become more eloquent, we open up new possibilities for connection, understanding, even, dare I say, a touch of magic in our everyday lives.
I like where this is going.
I know, right?
And luckily, we have even more words to uncover.
We do.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be exploring words that delve into the complexities of human nature, emotions, maybe even a few paradoxes.
Ooh, paradoxes.
Along the way.
I'm excited.
So stick around. Welcome back to the deep dive.
It's amazing.
We're knee-deep in fascinating words here,
I know, right?
exploring how they can help us communicate better.
Absolutely.
And now I'm ready to tackle some of these words that deal with, shall we say, less flattering aspects of human nature. All right, let's do it.
Up first, we have sycophant.
Ah, yes, the flatterer. The yes man, the person who praises insincerely to gain favor.
Right.
The article says a sycophant might tell you your new haircut looks great, even if they secretly think it's a disaster.
Yeah, that's rough.
I know.
But isn't there a fine line between being polite and being a sycophant?
Yeah.
Like, what if I genuinely do like your new haircut?
It's all about intention.
Okay.
A sincere compliment comes from a place of genuine appreciation.
Right.
Sycophancy is all about manipulation.
Oh, okay.
About saying what you think someone wants to hear to get something in return.
So it's about being aware of those underlying motives.
Exactly.
Are we trying to build someone up or are we just trying to butter them up?
Exactly. Butter them up.
And speaking of being aware of underlying motives, our next word is a bit of a head scratcher. Paradoxical.
Paradoxical.
It refers to those situations that seem contradictory, but might actually contain a hidden truth.
Oh, interesting.
The example they use is, it's paradoxical that the more connected we are online, the lonelier some people feel.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, how can those two things coexist?
That's the beauty of a paradox.
Right.
It forces us to question our assumptions and dig deeper.
Okay.
On the surface, constant connection should mean less loneliness.
Right.
But maybe it's the quality, not the quantity of those connections that matters most.
That's a good point. It's like having 1,000 Facebook friends.
Right.
But still feeling like you have no one to call when you're down.
Exactly. And that leads us to a word that describes a potential solution.
Okay.
To that feeling of isolation. Cathartic.
Oh, cathartic.
It's about releasing pent-up emotions.
Right.
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
Think of crying during a sad movie. Or writing in a journal.
Right. The article mentions that writing in a journal every night was a cathartic experience for someone.
It's like purging those emotions onto the page so they don't stay bottled up inside.
Yeah, and catharsis can come from any activity, right, that allows us to process and release those emotions.
It could be dancing, singing, creating art, even having a heart-to-heart conversation with a trusted friend.
It's like giving ourselves permission to feel those feelings fully so we can move through them and come out the other side.
Exactly. And sometimes what helps us move through those feelings is the realization that we're not alone.
Oh, okay.
And that's where our next word comes in.
All right.
Myriad.
Myriad, okay.
It signifies an abundance, a vast number of something.
Right.
The example the article gives is there are myriad reasons why climate change needs immediate attention. Wow. It really underscores the urgency and the complexity of the issue.
But myriad can also be used in a more
personal way.
Yeah,
Think of the myriad experiences that shape us, the myriad choices we make each day, the myriad people whose lives intersect with our own.
It makes you realize like how interconnected we all are. And maybe that's a comforting thought, knowing we're all navigating this vast, complex world together.
Right.
Speaking of navigating the world,
let's
talk about a word that embodies the essence of something.
Right.
Quintessential.
Quintessential?
It's like capturing the soul of something in its purest form.
That's right.
The article mentions, you know, a dish being the quintessential Italian meal.
Right. But how do we apply that to...
Right. Exactly. How do we...
Something more abstract.
Yeah, like a personality trait.
Like a personality trait.
Yeah.
Think of someone you'd consider the quintessential optimist.
Okay.
They radiate positivity, always see the silver lining, lift everyone's spirits.
Right.
They embody the very essence of optimism.
So it's about identifying those core qualities that define something.
Exactly. A person, a place, or even an idea.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Right.
And that brings us to a word that describes a quality I think we could all use a little more of in the world. Magnanimous.
Magnanimous.
It's about being generous, forgiving, and rising above pettiness.
I like that.
Especially when you have the upper hand.
Especially when you have the upper hand.
The article talks about a magnanimous gesture of like donating winnings to charity.
Right.
It's about acting with kindness and compassion.
Yeah.
Even when you don't have to.
Even when you don't have to, that's right.
It's a powerful word.
It is.
Because it suggests like certain nobility of spirit.
Think of a leader who, even after winning a hard-fought election, extends an olive branch to their opponent.
Ooh, that's good.
Or a friend who forgives a betrayal and moves forward with grace.
Okay, that's a high bar.
It is a high bar.
But I love the idea of like striving for that level of magnanimity.
Absolutely.
In our interactions with others.
In our everyday lives.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally, we come to a word that I think perfectly encapsulates the human experience.
Right.
Ineffable.
Ineffable.
Yeah.
This one always gives me chills.
I know, right?
It's about those moments
that are so powerful, so profound that words just can't do them justice.
Right.
The article mentions the ineffable beauty of the Northern Lights.
Yes. It's about those experiences that touch us on a soul level.
Yeah.
That feeling of awe when gazing at the stars.
Right.
The overwhelming love for a child.
Yeah.
The deep grief of losing someone dear.
It's like our language, as vast as it is, sometimes reaches its limits.
It does.
And maybe that's okay.
Maybe that's okay.
Maybe some things are meant to be felt rather than explained.
Yeah, perhaps that's the ultimate lesson here. Language is a powerful tool, but it's not the only tool we have for connecting with the world and each other.
Okay, I'm feeling all introspective now.
A little bit.
But before we get too lost in the ineffable, we have one last word to tackle in our next segment. It's a word that's often used to describe those who possess outstanding English.
Right.
But it can also be a bit of a double-edged sword.
Ooh, a double-edged sword.
Stay tuned to find out what it is. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, word nerds. We've journeyed through words for perceptiveness, fleeting beauty, and even those tricky paradoxes of human nature.
Oh, yeah.
And now for our final word.
Okay.
We're tackling one that's often used to describe those who have, like, a mastery of language.
Okay.
Articulate.
Articulate. It's a word that carries a certain weight, doesn't it?
It does.
To be articulate is to express oneself clearly and effectively, whether through spoken or written word.
The article highlights how someone's articulate arguments can, like, sway a debate.
Okay, yeah.
But it also mentions that the word can be used to subtly reinforce societal biases.
That's an important point to consider.
Right.
Who gets praised for being articulate?
Mm-hmm.
And who gets dismissed
Yeah.
or overlooked?
Yeah.
It's not always about who has the best ideas, but about who has the power and privilege to be heard.
So while articulate can be a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to be aware of the context
The context.
and the potential biases at play.
Right, exactly.
It's like we've been saying throughout this whole deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Words have power,
They do.
and how we use them matters.
And how we use them matters. It all comes back to that,
Right.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've explored 15 words today,
We had.
each with its own
Yeah.
unique shade of meaning
Mm-hmm.
and potential impact.
Right.
But the real takeaway isn't about memorizing definitions.
No.
It's about becoming more conscious,
Yeah.
more intentional,
Yeah.
more artful in how we use language.
It's like we've been given this new set of tools, and now it's up to us to use them wisely,
Yes.
to build bridges
To build bridges.
rather than walls,
Yes.
to express ourselves authentically,
Authentically.
and to listen deeply.
To the voices of others.
Deeply, that's right.
And maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
as we become more skilled with words, we can create a world
Right.
where everyone has the opportunity
Yeah.
to be heard.
To be heard.
Understood,
And valued
and valued.
for the unique perspectives
Absolutely.
they bring to the conversation.
That's a beautiful thought to end on.
It is. It is.
So to our listeners out there,
Yes.
what are your takeaways from this deep dive?
What really resonated with you? Which
Yeah.
words resonated with you the most?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you plan to use them
How are you going to use them?
in your own life?
Yeah, we encourage you to keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep questioning,
Keep playing.
and keep playing with language.
Yes.
Because the more we understand the power of words, the better equipped we are to use them for good.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover
Yeah.
a few new favorite words
Some new favorites.
along the way.
Along the way, hit us up on social media.
Yes.
Share your thoughts, your stories,
Let us know.
your word nerd adventures.
Yes, we want to hear it all.
Until next time,
Keep those words flowing.
keep those words flowing. Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're looking into something really interesting. It's hidden fluency. Those signs that you're actually way better at English than you think.
That's a good one.
We found this article and it's called 14 Signs You're More Fluent in English Than You Think. And honestly, some of these are pretty surprising. I had no idea.
Yeah, we always think of fluency as this perfect thing, but this article looks at it differently.
Yeah.
Like how well you actually communicate, not just, perfect grammar and all that.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. It's like real world stuff, not just textbook rules.
Yeah.
So, where do we even start with these 14 signs?
Well, a bunch of them are kind of connected, so we can group them up. Like, have you ever watched a movie, no subtitles or anything, and you still got what was going on, even if you didn't get every single word?
All the time. Wait, does that actually mean something about fluency? The article says it's like you're understanding the context, which is super important for communication. Like you're picking up on clues, not just the words themselves.
Yeah.
The situation, the other people, how they're talking.
Right. That makes sense. It's kind of like when someone uses a word you don't know, but you figure it out from the rest of what they're saying.
Exactly. Or even reading an article with some tough vocabulary. You get the main idea without looking up everything. The article says that's another sign.
So it's not about knowing every word, it's how you use the ones you do know.
Yeah. And this connects to another interesting thing. As you get more fluent, you might not be translating everything in your head anymore.
What? Really? I don't even realize I'm doing that.
It gets so automatic you don't notice. Like ordering food at a restaurant. Are you translating the whole menu before you talk?
No way. I just look and order what I want.
See? That probably means you're thinking in English already, which is like a big fluency thing.
Wow, this is making me rethink my whole English level. I didn't know these little things. Could be such a big deal.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it gets even cooler. The article says even how you think in English changes. Like when you're planning stuff or making sentences in your head.
Instead of thinking it in my own language first, I just think it in English now.
Exactly. It means you're so comfortable with it. It's becoming natural.
This is awesome. I'm already seeing these signs in myself.
Yeah.
What else does the article talk about?
Well, we can't forget about idioms and slang, right?
Oh, I love a good idiom. They're so fun.
And the article says understanding and using them shows you really get the nuances of English. It's not just the words, it's the culture and the meaning behind them.
Yeah, like break the ice doesn't mean literally breaking ice. It means making things more relaxed, starting the conversation.
Exactly. And being able to not just understand, but USE those idioms shows you're going way beyond basic stuff. It's like a deeper level.
Okay, so we got understanding the situation, thinking in English, and using idioms and slang. 3 hidden signs already. What's next?
Let's get into how we actually talk in English. This might surprise you. The article says not overthinking your answers and even using filler words can actually be signs of fluency.
Wait, what? I thought filler words were bad, and like...
It's totally natural, especially for native speakers. Think about it. When you chat with a friend, do you plan every word before you say it?
No way. It's all about the flow.
Right. So if you can answer naturally without overthinking it, and maybe throw in some ums and likes, it could mean you're comfortable, like a native speaker.
That's such a relief. I always feel bad when I use those words, but maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Maybe not. But of course, it's all about balance. They should help your flow, not hurt it.
Right. That makes sense. What else about conversations does the article talk about?
This is interesting. It gets into humor and abstract topics. Those can be hard, even for people who are pretty fluent.
Oh, yeah. I remember struggling with English humor. I never got the jokes.
Well, think about it. Humor isn't just the words. It's the culture, the tone, all these little things. So understanding it means you're fluent on a deeper level.
And what about abstract topics, like philosophy and stuff?
The article says being able to talk about those big ideas means you have really good skills. It's not just describing things.
Yeah.
It's expressing complex thoughts.
That makes sense. When you're talking about something abstract, you have to be more careful with your words.
Exactly. And you know what? They even have a joke example in the article.
Oh, a joke. I love jokes. Tell me.
Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts.
I get it. Skeletons don't have guts, so they can't fight. It's funny because guts means courage, too.
Exactly. You understood the joke perfectly, which means you're getting those subtle things. It's not just knowing the words, it's understanding how they're used in a funny way.
Wow, I'm seeing fluency in a whole new light. We talked about context thinking in English. Idioms, slang filler, words, humor, abstract topics. So much already. What else is there?
There's more. The article talks about writing, understanding different accents, and most importantly, having the confidence to just go for it. But I think that's a lot for now. Maybe we let it all sink in and come back for the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. This is giving me so much to think about. Can't wait for the next part. Okay, we're back and ready for more hidden fluency. My mind is still blown from all those signs we talked about.
Yeah, there's a lot more. We're going through this article. 14 signs you're more fluent in English than you think. And we've got some really cool stuff to cover still.
Hit me with it. What else is there?
Well, we were talking about communication, right? Like those moments when things get tricky.
You mean like when you're trying to explain something and the other person just doesn't get it?
Exactly. The article says even those situations can show how fluent you are. If you can handle misunderstandings without freaking out, that's a good sign.
So it's not just about speaking perfectly. It's about knowing how to fix things when you need to.
Yeah. They say it's about being able to rephrase things, explain it differently, maybe use simpler words if they're not understanding you. It's all about keeping the conversation going.
That's true. I used to get so nervous when I had to explain myself. But I've gotten better at it over time. Maybe that's a fluency thing too.
It probably is. The more fluent you are, the more confident you feel, even when things don't go perfectly.
So handling misunderstandings, that's a sign of fluency. Interesting. What else is there about communication?
The article talks about changing your tone depending on who you're talking to.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your friend.
Exactly. Being able to change your tone, how you say things, your words, that shows you really get how to communicate in different situations.
It's like reading the room and knowing how to act right.
Yeah. It's being socially smart with the language.
Yeah.
They even give examples in the article, like how you would greet a friend versus how you would start a work meeting.
It's crazy how those little things make such a difference. Okay, so far we've got understanding the situation, thinking in English, idioms, slang, talking naturally with those filler words, understanding humor, abstract topics, handling misunderstandings, A&D, changing our tone. Did I miss anything?
Wow, you got it all. We're making good progress through these 14 signs, but we're not done yet. The article also talks about writing in English. understanding different accents, and the most important thing, having the confidence to just use your English.
Okay, let's talk writing. I think a lot of people get more nervous about writing than speaking. It feels so much more serious.
I get it. Writing is different. But the article says if you can write emails or messages naturally, without checking every grammar rule, that's actually a big deal.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself clearly.
Exactly. They give this example of a casual email to a coworker. Hi, Sarah. Just following up on the report. Let me know if you need anything else. Single to the point, gets the job done.
I like that. It's not about trying to sound super fancy. It's about using writing to communicate.
Right. Which brings us to understanding different accents. That can be tough.
Oh, yeah. When I first started watching British TV shows, I needed subtitles to understand anything.
That happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But being able to understand different accents, whether it's British, American, Australian, whatever, it shows you have really good listening skills.
So it's not just about speaking, it's about understanding all the different ways people say it.
Yeah. It's a super useful skill, especially these days when we talk to people from all over the world. The article even talks about watching shows like Sherlock with those British accents, or Friends with the American accents, and being able to understand them without a problem.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I can watch those shows without subtitles now. Maybe I am more fluent than I thought.
That's awesome. Sounds like you're improving without even realizing it.
And that brings us to the last sign we'll talk about today, confidence. This one's really important.
Well, definitely. I think a lot of people are scared to speak English because they don't feel confident. That's why this article is so good. It says fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about being comfortable enough to use your English, even if you make mistakes sometimes.
That makes me feel better. It's okay to mess up a little as long as you're communicating right.
Right. They have this example of someone correcting themselves while they're talking. Like yesterday I go to the park. I just went to the park.
Yeah.
The point is they fixed the mistake and kept going.
It's like it's okay to be human. We're not robots. Fluency is about connecting with people.
Exactly. It's about using English to build relationships, share ideas, and experience the world.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening, but it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
There's definitely more to talk about. But I think it's good to let all this sink in for a bit. And then we can come back for the last part of our deep dive and wrap it all up.
That sounds like a plan. I can't wait to see what else we uncover. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into hidden fluency.
It's amazing how much we learn about how we use English, isn't it?
I know. It's like we've been fluent all along, but we didn't even realize it. So now what? What do we do with all this new information?
Well, that's where the last part of this article gets really interesting. It's not just about knowing the signs. It's about how we think about our fluency, like shifting our mindset from what we're bad at to what we're good at.
I like that. So what kind of advice do they give?
First, they say to just think about your journey with English. Like, where did you start and how far have you come? All those milestones.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget about all the progress we've made. We're always focused on what's next.
I know. But celebrating those wins, even the small ones, can really help us keep going. The article also says to look for chances to use English in real life, like talking to friends, watching movies, reading stuff, and notice how much you need help.
So it's about putting ourselves out there and just using the language.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more you'll realize you can actually do it. You can talk to people, understand things, express yourself. It's about focusing on what you can do.
I love that. It takes the pressure off of being perfect.
Right. And even celebrating those little wins is important. Like, if you understood a movie without subtitles, or explained something complicated in English, or had a good conversation with a native speaker, those are all wins.
It's like giving ourselves credit for how much we've learned.
Yeah. And this next one is super important. Don't compare yourself to others.
Oh, that's so hard, though. It's easy to look at other people and feel bad.
I know it's tempting. But everyone learns differently. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. The article says to focus on your journey and your goals.
That's good advice. It's like we're all running our own race.
Exactly. And fluency isn't about reaching some finish line. It's about using English to connect with people, share your thoughts, and see the world.
This whole deep dive has been so cool. I feel like I understand fluency in a totally new way.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
And that's the message I want you to take away. Fluency is a journey. It's about always learning and growing, but it's also about appreciating how far you've come already.
I like that. Before we finish, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Good idea. Yeah. How about this? What's one thing about your English fluency that you want to work on?
That's a great question. It makes people think about what they're good at and what they want to improve.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. Maybe it's idioms or feeling more confident or understanding different accents. It's all about choosing your own path.
So true. Well, that's it for our deep dive into hidden fluency. Thanks for joining us. We hope you learned something new about your own English skills.
And remember, fluency is a journey, not a destination. Keep practicing and keep celebrating your wins.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.